They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Welcome back to SlashLot, everybody. It's me,
Woo!
Sam the Damned Lens, with my
Whoa.
co-hosts, the killer Kelderman, Ginathan. How are you boys doing?
I'm great. Am I the one hearing like issues with your mic or not?
You're cutting in and out on your
Yeah.
microphone.
Hold on.
You might have to hardwire yourself in, Sam.
All right, hold on. Let me do that quick.
It's crazy. I know we have like $1 million equipment and still stuff goes wrong.
I'll drop you out and then you can drop yourself in, Sam, when you're okay. You muted yourself. You're good. You're good.
Yeah, we don't need Sam. So
No, he doesn't run this show. He does. He exactly does on this show. I thought of this as I was hitting the music, though. I was like, God, like I forget sometimes all the shit that we do on this show, and I was like, we haven't done a fan slashing in a very long time.
We haven't. Am I better now?
Yes.
Yeah. You're a lot better. Yeah.
Cool.
I have one that we can do at the end. Gives us a little time.
Well, yeah. What is it? So I can think about it.
Fan slash a horror icon into a classic Christmas movie.
Hell yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right. Anyway,
I got mine already. All right.
I don't have one and might not have one, but that's okay. That's okay.
we'll find it along the way.
Yeah.
Sam, do you want to continue with your? I don't know where you were even at.
I think I just introduced us, and then you guys were like, "You're cutting out," and I was like,
"Your
okay.
mic sucks.
You suck."
AirPods for the win. I think it was because I was wearing a stocking hat, and I think the static built up because I've had issues with that before.
Yeah, I think so.
Take your hat off, you bum.
Yeah, now everybody just gets to see my greasy, unwashed hair.
That's fine. I showered before this, so I got you covered.
I'm showering after this, but I just today has not been a shower day yet. So, anyways, back on track. We talk horror movies on this podcast.
We digress a lot too.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's December. We're all feeling festive. And what better way to celebrate the month of December and Christmas by celebrating a trio of movies, 2/3 of which are great.
Here we go.
Yep.
Which 2/3?
We're talking The Black Christmas from 1974. Unfortunately, we're talking The Black Christmas from 2006.
Boo.
And we're also talking Black Christmas 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Original versus remake versus
remake. Yeah. And we already told them the fan slashing because we all found out about the fan slashing.
Just now.
So
we'll figure it out along the way, guys. We got it.
Get prepared. I had one come instantly to mind because I have a funny art piece idea for it. So, I've got mine. Now, of course, that I've said that, I'll have to deliver on the art piece.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Will be not great.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah. So should we get into what we do every show and get into our fresh meat?
Fresh meat.
Yeah. Fresh meat.
Yeah.
And I think one of us definitely has more meat than the others.
That's for sure true.
On this
Blake
show.
definitely has
for
more
sure
meat
true.
than both of us.
Yep.
Blake's meat list is huge.
And Sam's vegan, so his is very small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are
Okay.
you kidding? Mine's just a cucumber.
Okay. Festive.
What
Get it?
is
Because it's
happening?
green?
I don't know. This show is. This is.
I don't know.
Let's just start over and try this again.
We should burn this whole podcast to the ground.
I'm gonna burn my phone actually too, and
all 5.5 minutes of this.
We have to record next week because I gotta buy a new phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll. You said you only had 2 or 3, Sam?
I have 3 if we count the one that we talked about. So, yeah.
Well, let's just start with that one because that's the first one on my list.
Cool.
I watched the beta test by
Jim Cummings.
Jim Cummings, yeah.
Not the voice of Winnie the Pooh, the other Jim Cummings.
Yeah. I think this is the first misstep he's had. I didn't really care for this too much. It's what was it? UKC that says it's like American Psycho with what?
I said it's like an American Psycho for like the digital age.
Okay. I didn't think it was bad. It just I'm like wondering if like he needs to find maybe like a different topic to talk about, or this just felt so unhinged, and it didn't work for me personally. Like I didn't think he was very good. I like at the end of the movie I was just kind of like, I don't know what I was supposed to get out of this movie. It was entertaining, but ultimately I just didn't know what was I'm trying to learn from this movie. So I thought it was okay. It was like a solid 2.5 stars for me. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I watched it with Maria, and she appreciated Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Yeah.
But she was like, I feel like I need to. We haven't watched it since, but she's like, I feel like I need to watch that again sometime now that I know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot to take in the first time. And I think that's true about this one too. Like I ended up watching this twice.
Okay.
Like twice, much like I did with Wolf of Snow Hollow. Her and I had a really long conversation after the credits rolled on this one, where we were both at the end of the movie sitting at about a 3-star rating. And by the end of our conversation, hers had dropped down to a 2-star rating and mine had moved up to a 4. Just the more I talked about it and dove into like what it was doing, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the movie doesn't come to a very satisfying conclusion.
Oh, I agree with that.
But I think that's it's by design, I think. And it's just, the more I think about it, the more the ending, while not necessarily satisfying as like a viewer looking for entertainment or any kind of catharsis, it leaves you feeling uneasy almost. And I don't know. I love movies like that. And I think that the reveal of this movie, the being so like the answer to the big question being so cavalier, just a casual, like whatever, is both devastating and also just much scarier than what this movie could have been.
Yeah.
From the first scene. You know what I mean? Like it sets up to be something a lot more sinister than what it really is. And I think it's so incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did dig this movie. I think it is definitely like a conversation movie. Like you need to talk to somebody after you watch it. It's just kind of the same with any Jim Cummings movie.
Yeah.
I do think it is the weakest of his 3 features so far. Like Blake was saying, unhinged. That's a great word to use for this movie because it is kind of.
I love his monologue
nuts.
in the parking garage, though.
Oh, it's great, and I think he's great in this movie.
Yeah,
but I think it just needed to be tightened up what he was trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like there was like 5 things he's trying to say, and like all of them were fighting for like what the movie was about. I just didn't know what he was saying in the end, and I'm also like, how many more Me Too movies do we need? I mean, I just I don't know what he's trying to accomplish with this movie. I don't. So, like, he's really good at being an asshole. Like the scene where he's tearing down that, like
the intern.
The intern. Like that's a really good sequence. He's just so good at Jim Cummings is amazing at like feeling belittled and then treating people like shit, so much so that he is belittling himself. And I really, I really enjoy it when he has like those panic attack, unhinged, like diatribes about, like, oh, you think I'm weak? Like, you think I'm the weak one? Like, when he like starts stuttering, that's what I really like. Jim Cummings. I just thought the message got muddled a little bit with what he was trying to do, but I do. It would be really cool to see this with American Psycho and sort of like compare like a like one satirical horror movie with. I mean, like we're talking about it here, but this kind of isn't a horror movie. I mean, it is and it isn't. It really skirts that line.
There are definitely horrifying scenes.
Yeah, I mean, the opening sequence.
Yeah, the opening sequence sets it up to be a horror movie.
I started watching it and I was like, I had to like pause it and like make sure that it was the beta test that I got, because I was like, okay, there's like Dutch people in this talking, and so I thought that was like a really great opening. I love the stuff where he sees that woman in the restaurant and I can't tell if he's like, imagining like what this woman is trying to like do to him, like or if he's one of those like Hollywood types where he's so full of himself that that's what he thinks the woman is telling him to do. I love that whole thing. Just at the end, I just stopped caring. So, but like Sam said, I might watch it again at some point and see if my opinion changes on it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I agree with what you say. I think it does thematically really try to bite off a little more than it can chew, but I also didn't.
Also, this is co-directed. He didn't do this by himself.
McCabe.
So, yeah, who's really good in the movie as well. Yeah. So
yeah, who does he play again?
He plays his partner,
the friend, right?
Yeah, the best friend.
Yeah. He is really good in that. So.
Yeah, I think it's the I don't know, if you don't know what to expect going into a Jim Cummings movie, you might not fully embrace what's going on, and still, even as Jim Cummings fans, there's still a lot to take in for this movie, especially for Thunder Road and Wolf of Snow Hollow being his two previous movies. I think are both easily accessible compared to this movie.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Even though this movie feels like when credits rolled on Wolf of Snow Hollow, I'm like, I just watched something that was incredible. Like I watched something fresh and new. And when credits rolled on this, I felt like I had seen something different. I just didn't know how
to feel about it.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just
right.
Whether the movie does it by design or if it's not done, by design. So
I was gonna say I went with my buddy Dakota, who had never heard of Jim Cummings, didn't know anything about his previous work, and after it, he's like, "Yeah, that was incredible. I need more." And so at least, like, I think that's a big thing with him too. With Jim Cummings is like, yeah, just keep making more new stuff, man. Like,
yeah.
Even if he swings big every single time he's going out there, even if it doesn't totally work for everyone.
I was just thinking, like, he seems to just always be working on like a high wire. Like you never know if he's gonna fall off or what he's gonna do, and I think that like we talked about it, sort of like the worst sin a movie can make is that it's boring, and he doesn't make boring movies ever. So yeah. But I just keep rolling. Okay, I watched a movie called Soul Survivor from 1984. This is maybe the best thing I've watched in a long time. This is about a woman who survives a plane crash, and then like death stalks her to try and like kill her. And this is sort of like this comparisons have made before, but like this is like if the guy that made It Follows made Final Destination. Like it has that really moody atmosphere. A lot of like, I think there's like internal like narration where like the narrator's really unsure of what's happening. And what I loved about it was nothing ever really gets solved. It's just sort of like this thing is always going to stalk her, and like, people die around her and they come back alive, not come back alive, but like their bodies, are reanimated, and they are like haunting her and stalking her. The final sequence is like this guy in a mortuary, and he's at like a computer table, like typing something in, and then one of the bodies just like sits up, and like the movie ends. Yeah, I mean, like, I know I didn't really give you much, but that's essentially it. Like, this woman, like, is just being stalked by these dead people, and it's just very, very atmospheric and moody, and like very uneasy. Yeah, the people who made Final Destination have definitely seen this. Same thing with the It Follows guy. Like, this is clearly a huge inspiration for these movies. I thought it was excellent. I watched Last Night in Soho, which I think has been discussed quite a bit. I thought it was very good. It sort of died with me just a little bit in terms of my excitement about it, but I still like it quite a bit. I think I've given one Edgar Wright movie thumbs down after another, and I think this one really worked for me. It felt pretty straightforward. So some of the messaging might not quite work, but I thought some of like the camera work was incredible. I'm a huge fan of Thomasin McKenzie. I thought she was great in the movie. The reveal at the end is like kind of like whatever, but it just feels so cinematic with Diana Rigg, I think this is her final performance, sort of like, like she's almost like dying in real life on screen. I thought that was like a really cool unintended motif, but I really enjoyed this quite a bit. This sort of felt like we kind of had a year of like big mainstream studio movies replicating or being inspired by giallos, and I thought this was kind of like the best version of that we've seen this year. So I really enjoyed that. I watched a movie called Coming Home in the Dark. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's a movie from New Zealand. It's on Netflix right now. You can watch it on Netflix. If you guys watch this, I would highly recommend turning subtitles on. One of the actors, his accent is so thick and he talks so fast that I had no idea what he was saying. But essentially, the movie is about this family that are going camping in the New Zealand like national park system. Two guys come upon them and sort of like take them hostage by gunpoint, and then this guy kills both the children, and then takes the parents on like this insane ride through the night. Like, like, hey, like at the end of this night, I'm gonna kill you, but first I'm gonna have fun with you. And then you slowly find out that the two men and the father of the family are connected, and it's just sort of like it's not planned. It's just sort of by happenstance that they have met up all these years later, and you find out why they know each other, and it's pretty evil stuff. But yeah, I thought this is really well done. This is excellent filmmaking. It's sort of like, it felt like I don't know if you guys have seen the David Lynch movie Lost Highway, but it sort of felt like that at times, where like lots of like really cool nighttime shots of like car wheels on highways with rain falling down, and it like, again, another atmospheric, really moody movie, incredibly violent, but I thought it was really good. Like I said, it's on Netflix. I highly recommend it. I thought it was quite good. I watched the Slumber Party Massacre remake or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, you guys are going to be disappointed.
Oh no.
I loved the first 35 or 40 minutes of this movie. I thought it was excellent. I was having a lot of fun with it. I thought the twist. Have you guys talked about the twist in the show at all, or not? I won't say anything if you don't want to, but I thought the twist was excellent, and I loved that whole play. The movie lost me when one guy said one specific line, and that was when he said, "My toxic masculinity won't allow me to go outside," and that was for me when the movie jumped the shark, and it became too like conscious of what it was doing. and I sort of like really got out of it. Like I love the whole like flipping of like gender roles in the movie. I loved all of that. But when the guy said that, it was like the movie broke like that line for me. And then I was like, okay, I'm out. And then for me, the movie became what it was making fun of. But I still recommend watching it, even though I didn't like it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the group of girls were really good. I thought all those ladies were, and when they when they got really excited to pull all those knives out, I lost my shit. I thought that was hilarious. I loved all that. I love the guy who's the killer. He was a lot of fun. It's just sort of like the movie became too self-aware of what it was and didn't like keep that subverted enough for me. So I recommend seeing it because I think it's a really fun take on the genre, even though I didn't like fully I didn't really care for where it went after that, but I still recommend it because it was a really unique take. I watched the new Paranormal Activity movie. Boy, I like this quite a bit. This one I don't think is too connected to the other series. It's about this girl who she gets like this message from this guy that their family and and this girl also has not seen her mother for decades. So she finds out that they're Amish, and so she travels to, I think it's Pennsylvania where they're at, and she has to like she's with this with her friend who's a camera guy, and then they also hired the sound guy, and the sound guy's great. He has all these great like one-liners and stuff, but they go to this Amish community where things just aren't what they seem, and I really liked this. I thought there were a lot of great scares in it, a lot of great suspense building. The movie breaks some rules, like all of a sudden, like it'll cut to other like angles of shots, and it's like, okay, like where's this camera at? Like who's holding this camera? So like if you can get past that, there's a lot of great stuff. This movie gets compared to Midsummer a little too much. I don't know. I mean, I get why, but where the movie goes at the end, it really turns into something. I thought it was really cool where the movie ends up at. And I'm not going to really reveal what happens because it's a lot of fun and it gets really, really violent at the end of the movie. So I really like that one quite a bit. That one's on Paramount Plus. If you guys have, I think Casey, I gave you my login if you want to watch that one.
Is it on par with Paranormal Activity 3?
No, nothing is.
No? Okay.
Yeah, nothing is. I watched. I guess I watched. Well, that's not really a horror movie. I watched this movie called The Scary of 61st. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's I think it might be on Shudder. It's about these two girls who they're looking for an apartment in Manhattan, and they find this like really cheap apartment, and they're really shocked that they got it for so cheap. And then as they're sort of like getting integrated into the apartment, their neighbor like knocks on the door and is like, "Oh, have you heard of like who used to live here or own this place?" They're like, "No," and they're like, "It was Jeffrey Epstein." And it's like they're like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, this used to be one of his apartments where he'd bring girls and stuff." And then it becomes like this supernatural like sort of like weird movie where they they kind of get possessed by like the spirits of these girls that Jeffrey Epstein treated like shit or whatever. It was okay. It's kind of like a Roman Polanski movie, where, like Rosemary's Baby or something. If it was directed by like, who's that mumblecore director?
Joe Swanberg?
Yes, him. It felt exactly like something like that. So again, another movie you have to turn up really loud or put subtitles on because these people were like mumbling. Like it's a very low budget movie. Like if they made this for over $10,000, I'd be like shocked. So that one is like a mild recommendation. I didn't think it was like that great, but
what's it called again?
The Scary of 61st.
The Scary of 61st. Okay.
There's one sequence where like it's like this montage cutting back and forth between like one girl flipping through pictures of Jeffrey Epstein and another girl like masturbating incredibly hardcore outside of an apartment building. It's a pretty wild movie. But if you can find like the level it's on, you might enjoy it. I thought it was okay. Yeah, it's pretty crazy movie. And then my final I have a few more actually. Sorry. I watched Psycho Gorman. We all love it. It's great. Sorry, it's not higher than a 3.5, Sam.
I forgot I called you out for that.
Yeah. I watched. You guys did a show on it. I watched Phantom of the Paradise. I thought it was okay. I thought the music was phenomenal. I thought like a lot of the makeup and the filmmaking was great, but I didn't love it. I was quite bored at times. Then the final movie I watched was Maniac Cop2. I have no idea how this movie got made. There's a scene in this movie. I'm not kidding. There's a scene in this movie where Maniac Cop handcuffs a woman to a steering wheel while she's standing on the outside of the car, and he pushes the car down a hill, and like the car just speeds through New York City down hills and stuff, and this woman is on the outside of the car, and like they show shots and there's no one in the car driving, and it's just this woman on the outside of the car. I'm not kidding. It's nuts. I have no idea how this made this movie. This movie's a lot of fun. Bruce Campbell's in it. Robert Davey, Michael Lerner, a lot of like really great character actors. Charles Napier. I don't know if you guys have seen the Maniac Cop movies or not, but you have, Casey?
I haven't gotten to 2 or 3 yet. I've seen the first one. The first one is incredible.
Yeah, so you this one's more of an action movie. There's definitely a sequence that I won't say which one because I don't want to ruin or I don't want to ruin the movie for people who have not seen it. But like Malignant, like 100%, like is inspired by a sequence in this movie. But this movie is balls to the wall action. Maniac Cop teams up with this guy who's raping strippers and killing them, and they're like. And yeah, this guy's like, "Oh my God, you're Maniac Cop. We gotta go. It's you and me, man. We gotta go take the town." And so it's nuts, man. Like I think Bill Lustig directed this, and it's just like, it's not like it's not like Maniac level of like violence and like disgustingness. This is more like, I know it's not a big studio, but it's a bigger budget, just like balls to the wall action movie with some horror elements in it. But it's pretty wild. I highly recommend watching this like late at night. It's pretty crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, I need to get to those sequels. I dig.
And they're both on Shudder too, I think. Yeah. So
cool.
Bill Lustig episode we have to
oh God,
that would be wild.
I better take a shower before and after.
We'll just record it from the shower. That's the only way you can get
through
an
episode
of it.
Yeah, no cameras on that episode though.
I can go next.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought we were going to like rotate to a thing. I didn't mean to hog the air there.
I only have 3 movies.
And I have 2, and they're very loosely defined under the umbrella of horror. So,
I mean, aside from, both Sam and I, we also watched Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
We watched Carrie as well.
Yeah.
So, we've done full discussions. Those we both very much enjoy those movies. But since you brought up Psycho Gorman, I'm talking about a movie that Psycho Gorman himself directed, Death Valley. No, not the Peter Billingsley 80s like slasher movie.
Hell
Death Valley, which that movie rules. This one is a ton of fun. It's a Shudder movie. It's like these 2 mercenaries are hired to go like retrieve this scientist from this underground leftover World War II or Cold War bunker. And it turns out that they've been experimenting on people down there and have like these creatures that come, like humans that turn into these creatures and come back and start, attacking people one by one. Your typical horror movie setup. The creature work of this movie is incredible. I mean, the gentleman who played Psycho Gorman, who was in the monster suit for that, is again in the monster suit for this.
Nice.
Terrifying looking creature. Has some like nice callbacks to The Thing and Alien, like other sci-fi horror movies too. Like it's not like gonna be, it's my favorite movie of the year. No, it's just a fun 90-minute action horror movie with some great creature practical effects. So I'd recommend it. Like,
Are there other hunky boys in this?
There is zero. Well, I mean, the actors themselves are hunky boys,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
not called out as such as they should have been, though.
That's too bad.
I have 2 Christmas horror movies that I watched.
Yeah.
I rewatched Gremlins. I hadn't seen Gremlins in a couple years. Rewatched it. Yeah, this movie's incredible. Such a fun, bonkers horror comedy that I don't know. Like, for me, is like the definition of just kind of this balls to the wall, free reign, like studio horror movie that we just don't get those anymore. Literally, the studio just gave Joe Dante money and said, "Go make a movie," and this is the movie he made. And it's like you have like Spielberg attached to it as well, and it's like, how did this movie get made? Like, who was this movie for when it came out?
Spielberg. That's why.
Well, that is how it got made.
Right.
But who is this for? Like, is this for kids? Is this for horror fans? For both? It's such a weird combination. But I mean, I think it obviously the reputation that it holds, almost 40 years later, still holds up. So, yeah, and the practical effects of this movie, like, if we're ever gonna get Gremlins 3, you can't CGI the Mogwai. You have to do full-on practical effects. And I mean, looking at like the success of Baby Yoda, Grogu of recent years, it's like, yeah, just make yourself a bunch of money and just make Gremlins 3 and sell the shit out of Gizmo toys for the next 5 years.
They're still adorable.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, I think this was like 2010 when this came out. I watched Rare Exports.
I haven't seen this.
I hadn't seen it before. I know Blake was a fan of it. I got it in before we did our Christmas countdown.
I don't think it's great, but it's different. It's fun.
It's a fun take on the Santa is a killer subgenre of horror, where Santa is a real life person buried underneath is it in Antarctica or where are they at?
They're in Finland.
Is it Finland?
Yeah.
They unearth Santa and his elves.
They unearth
the elves.
Yes. And they just look like Santa Claus, like a traditional Santa Claus. And then I don't want to give too much away, but they eventually.
But Santa shows up.
Right. Yeah. And Santa ain't. You don't want to fuck with Santa.
This ain't Tim Allen.
This is not. Yeah. No, it's I mean, I look back and it's like, yeah, it's great, but it's not great. It's just it's different. I think it's only like 70 or 80 minutes long. I don't think it's very
really
long.
short.
Yeah, and it's about kids fighting, Santa Claus. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're like looking for a Christmas horror movie to throw on it, you're knee deep in eggnog and half a dozen cookies. Like, this is the perfect movie to throw on to mellow out at the end of Christmas night or something like that.
This is a perfect, like, snowy, windy, cold night movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just a ton of fun. Like, again,
I'm glad you liked it.
Like Blake said, awesome. This movie is like 81 minutes, I think.
It's not very long.
It's really short. It's ridiculously short. So that's always a good thing too.
And the kids are the main characters of the movie. Like, they're trying to figure out what to do, help dad and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
But that is all I got.
Okay, so my 2 that I have. The first one, I know, Casey, you have thoughts about the new Addams Family animated movies. I
haven't watched the new one yet. I mean,
yeah, that's fair. I like the first one more so than you do, I think. It's not perfect, but I actually think it's a better representation of the Addams Family than the Sonnenfeld movies. Although Christina Ricci will always be my Wednesday Addams. I really like the animation style of these new ones. I finally bought and saw the Addams Family 2. And I think it's a step down from the 2019 one. It starts off like very clunky, where you've got all these like kind of disparate pieces that are going to come together, and they're probably going to come together in a pretty predictable way. And they all do. but along the way you get a lot more, like, the humor in this one feels darker than the humor in the last one, and that's what I walked away like appreciating. There are multiple scenes where Wednesday's like legitimately trying to like murder Pugsley, and it's kind of hilarious. And it's just like that content that I crave from the Addams Family. My biggest complaint is that Gomez is a little bit out of character in this one because he's like very like needy, and it needs like attention from Wednesday. That's like what the whole plot of this is about. There's a rumor that Wednesday got switched at the hospital and isn't a real Addams, and Gomez goes nuts and tries to like smother her with love. And I'm kind of like, seems a little, I don't know, out of character for him. But this movie in the third act all of a sudden becomes like Reanimator meets 50s science fiction lab grown monster movie in a weird way. Like it ends with a gigantic monster fight. And
Like the Addams Family teams up to fight a giant monster?
no, like two monsters fight,
Okay.
one on behalf of the Addams Family and one trying to destroy the Addams Family. And it's just, it comes together in a really predictable way, like I said, but it has a lot of fun doing it. Once like all the green slime starts getting injected into people and like tentacled monsters are like duking it out with each other, I was like, yeah, I'm in on this. Like, I don't know. It stuck the landing for me. It's a dumb, goofy movie. If you didn't like the first one, you're not probably going to find a lot to like in this one. I don't think it's as strong as that one was. But I don't know. I had fun watching it, but I have fun watching anything that's Addams Family. So take from that what you will. And then it segues perfect into my next one, which I actually just watched tonight, so I wouldn't just be talking about one movie. I just bought the entirety of the Munsters on DVD. I finally found the whole series at Walmart, and so I picked it up. And it came with DVD copies of Munster Go Home, which I already own, but it also came with The Munster's Revenge. And I know, Casey, you watched a couple Munster movies this summer. Did you get to The Munster's Revenge?
I did not. I watched
Okay.
Munster Go Home and then two of the remake,
The like 90s one?
like the 90s remakes, yeah.
Okay, so this one came out in 81. So it was like well past when the show had gone off air. And you can tell like they bring back Fred Gwynn, Yvonne DiCarlo, and Al Lewis, but they're all much older than what they were when you saw them in the TV show. Still, they fall back into their characters really well. And the whole movie revolves around this like guy who owns a wax museum, and they have this horror monster display. And of course, there's a display that looks just like the Addams, or just like the Munsters, you know? Well, it turns out that he's in league with this like jewel thief who now wants to use these robots, like use these wax figures as robots to steal like and mug people and do all these crimes. And so Herman and Grandpa get like pointed out as the two monsters who have been doing all this mugging around town, and they go to jail. And then they escape, and then the detective on the case falls in love with Marilyn. And Marilyn is the most dramatic, like, bitchy version of this character that we have ever seen in the Munsters. Like, her and her boyfriend both. Her, like, the detective on this is just this equally, like, catty and bitchy. And it's so funny because every scene that they're in is, like, high melodrama. And then the rest of it is just this dumb, quirky caper. Which, I don't know. It doesn't work all the time, but it has enough fun with it. Like Herman Munster and Grandpa, they get dressed up in drag at one point and start serving at like a local diner because they're laying low from the cops, and it's insane. Like it goes.
This sounds wild.
Yeah, it goes to some weird places. And yeah, the robots, cops. Marilyn fighting with a detective. It's insane. I recommend it if you're a Munsters fan. because it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's short. It's an hour and a half, and yeah, it's just goofy and zany the whole way through. So if you like the Munsters, you should give the Munsters Revenge a shot. I don't know why it's called the Munsters Revenge. Like, no one gets revenge in this movie. It's not a revenge movie at all. But yeah, that's literally what I got watched between our last recordings.
Well,
so I suppose
besides our three movies of today,
besides our main course, which is Black Christmas, and Black Christmas.
Or Black Xmas.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were gonna say.
I like to refer to the 06 one as Black Xmas.
Black Xmas, yeah. Which one do we want to talk about first?
I mean, should we just go in order? I mean,
yeah, let's just go in order.
Perfect.
So
I'll let you guys take this first part. I didn't watch this, and I have no recollection of it. So.
Oh, seriously? Oh,
no.
God. This one's burned into my brain. I mean, granted, I watch this every year now, but yeah, 1974 is just, what can you say? It's the slasher that started
slashers.
Yeah, it's the slasher that started slashers.
Mm-hmm.
I know it came out in the same year as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think if you're looking at like the typical slasher template, the tropes, Black Christmas was the one that really encapsulated that before it became popular. And this movie is bone chilling. Every phone call into the house is obscene. It's nasty. Like, you feel like you should not be listening to what this person is saying. The tension in this movie is unbearable at times. The first time I watched this, it was actually like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was Christmas Eve. Maria had just left to go back to her folks' place for a couple days, and I was in the apartment alone, and I watched it for the first time, and I slept with the lights on, and I checked my doors like 4 or 5 times. It wigged me out, and it still does every time I watch it. It's a freaky movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this movie, I had seen the 06 one before I had ever watched this one. But rewatching this one at the State, because I hadn't seen it in probably 3-4 years, I don't know, just reignited my love for this movie, because I love it. And the first time I watched it, obviously the horror elements really stood out. And the big like slasher elements of this movie. Yeah, this is the movie obviously John Carpenter's blatantly ripped off for Halloween. And then Sean Cunningham blatantly ripped off Halloween 2 years after that. So like, to call this movie the grandfather of the modern or 80s, whatever version of slasher of the American slasher, that's what this movie definitely is. I mean, we had Psycho before that, and a few other lingering slasher elements in other movies. But, I mean, set on a holiday, you have a faceless killer who's killing a bunch of teenage girls who are sexually active, partying, drinking, and no real parental figures around to save them. So, I mean, this has every element of the slasher genre within it, and also kind of flips it on its head its first time around. And I think I'm like, that's such a great thing to look back on, 50 years removed from this movie.
Has it been that long?
What Bob Clark was able to do. I mean, this guy would 10 years later go on to make a Christmas Story, like one of the great Christmas movies of all time, and makes this dirty, gross 70s slasher movie with the most perverted slasher killer out there, who says things we are not going to say on this podcast because they are nasty and gross. And I mean, the opening of this movie is chilling. Like, you just open on the house, and it's just dark, and you just have, the Christmas decor outside to kind of obviously put you in the mood for the season. But immediately we get into our first kill pretty much right away. And what I find really interesting about the movie is that, like, the next 20 minutes after that are a sort of like comedy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Like a college comedy is what it kind of delves into. And again, that's where like the Porky's stuff of Bob Clark's career also gets mixed into this. He has such a fascinating filmography.
He does.
Did he do
The,
Porky's?
He did Porky's, yeah.
the
God.
opening of this movie is so good too with the sound design. Like
Mhm.
Carpenter clearly ripped the opening
The
to
POV,
Halloween off
yeah.
of this. Like it's the same thing, and I'd argue that this does it better. Even though I love Halloween, I genuinely like. You guys know Halloween is like maybe my favorite movie of all time, but I think that the POV, if we're going for just straight up bone chilling, like this one takes the cake for me because you can hear like you hear merriment inside the house as you're walking around this house in the eyes of someone who is about to destroy that merriment. And to me, that makes it worse. Like hearing all the different characters that you know are probably not going to make it, having such a good time, it wigs me out in a way that the opening to Halloween doesn't. Because even in that dialogue from outside, you start to know who all the different characters are. Like you start to pick out personalities and voices, and you're like, okay, you know, you don't have that as much with Halloween.
I was just gonna say
yeah.
the actual characters, the female leads of this movie, are much better than those in Halloween. Even though, yes, like you, Sam, like Halloween is my favorite horror movie ever, but the actual characterization of characters in this movie is incredible. I mean,
Yep.
Olivia Hussey is one of the best final girls that no one ever talks about. And you want to talk about, especially in the 2019 one, when we get to that, the social commentary that's literally just beating you over the head with it. Bob Clark was doing it in 74 and just weaving it into the story, like just as part of the story of her being, you know, having to reveal to her boyfriend that she's pregnant and wanting to have an abortion. And pretty much there was nothing he can do about it, even though he was very, I don't know, he's very abusive.
Yeah.
He has anger issues.
Yeah.
He obviously has some jealousy issues with her as well. Like all these elements of expecting him to be the killer at the end of the movie, which we would see in like Scream, are present here. Even though this movie, spoilers for 1974's Black Christmas, again flips it on its head by the end of this movie. The boyfriend is set up to be the killer. He's killed, but he's not the killer.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Bob Clark was way ahead of the curve in pretty much everything he was doing in this movie. And it's so interesting to look back at all the elements that we know and love of the slasher genre, like being presented for the first time here and subverted for the first time in the same movie.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. Like this ending is bone chilling because you think like, oh God, thank you. Like she won. She beat who it was. Like it's him. Yeah. And then when they keep lingering on the house after the cops all leave, I was like, oh no. And then the phone rings and I like your gut just drops. You're just like, no. Oh no. Oh no.
The third act of this movie has so many great like just bone chilling moments. Like the one that, I mean, obviously the eye through the crack in the door is the one everybody thinks of. But the one that gets me is when the phone's ringing. She's on the phone, and it's after she's told the call is coming from in the house. Is this the first movie that has done that trope? I mean, When a Stranger Calls is a few years later.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously the urban legend was probably around before this. But either way, after that happens, you just see her like looking back up the stairs and there's just nothing there and it's just silent. And I'm like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Just the use of silence and empty space.
The empty space in this movie is incredible.
Chills down my bones. Yeah.
Oh, I love all the shots in the stairwells and like the just different dark corners that you're like, oh my God, is there someone back there? Is there someone lurking in the room in the background? Like this movie is framed so well to the point where it you know the structure of the house. Like you know every nook and cranny of the house. and yet you still don't feel safe in it. It's incredible. I also like, we can't talk about this movie without talking about Barb, played by Margot Kidder, who is maybe like my favorite slasher character ever. I love Barb so much. The fact that she's like the one that's chain smoking and drinking and telling.
Oh,
Damn.
denied of any further thoughts on that. Yeah, she's the best. She's incredible in this movie.
Hi, I'm back.
He's back. What were you saying about Barb, Margot Kidder?
Oh, I love it. Like, from the get-go, she's the one that's like, you know, calling him a fucking creep and like just, you know, yelling back at him and provoking him. And one of my favorite Barb moments is when Olivia Hussey comes into her room and she's like gasping for breath. And you find out that the girl who has literally never had a cigarette not hanging out of her lips is also an asthmatic, and she has to get her inhaler for her. And I just think that's such a funny touch to the character. I don't know.
I mean, the fellatio bits had the audience rolling at the screen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's just, she's great. She's got all the big laughs in this movie.
I think just on par with her is the house mother, though.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Every nook and cranny of the house, if it's not occupied by
booze bottle,
by Billy's creepy presence, it has a booze bottle hidden in a toilet or in a book or in the closet or a shoebox. Like,
oh yes, B for booze. Pulls out the book. Oh yeah, she's great.
Also, we get the great John Saxton in this movie. Like, I love every time John Saxton shows up. I like to think this is a prequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And he just later moves to Illinois and is like, oh, shit, I have to deal with this again. But, like, what stood out to me this time is pretty much just because we're talking De Palma movies, how much De Palma had... I think De Palma watched Black Christmas and is a fan of Black Christmas, because there's some De Palma stuff in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like the split perspective where you have the two, one's closer, one's further away. And Bob Clark does that a couple times in this movie, and that's like very famous De Palma shot that's in you know, like every big De Palma movie. And I mean, Bob Clark is using it here too. And yeah, even like you said, Sam, of knowing every part of this house, that's another De Palma thing. Like, knowing where everything is in a movie. Yeah, but I mean, it's during the same time De Palma's breaking in, so like that's a cool mixture of what we're talking about on Backlot and
have you guys
and OG Black Christmas too.
Have you guys seen Sisters?
I haven't watched Sisters yet.
I think that predates this.
Okay,
you're right.
And also stars Margot Kidder. Yeah.
I'm adding it to my watch list.
Yeah, it's really good. I would recommend it.
I'm not gonna lie. When you said Sisters, I thought you were talking about the Tina Fey comedy. I'm like, what?
Have you seen that one, Sam?
I haven't, but I don't really plan to.
Don't.
I like both of them. That movie did not look great.
Yeah.
But no, I'll check out the Brian De Palma Sisters.
Yeah, it's really good.
Cool.
Yeah, I had the Criterion of that. I should pop that in this month.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, this movie though, I don't know. I want this to start becoming more of a a Christmas tradition of watching OG Black Christmas every year, just because it is one of those movies like Halloween. You should watch it every single year, just because it does hold up every time you watch it, and you get kind of something new out of it each time. Especially because this movie isn't just a straight horror movie; it has those comedic elements too. Also, there's one part I want to talk about.
Yeah,
the little girl who goes missing and begins this big town-wide search in the forest for her, and then they end up finding one of the sorority girls in the forest. Are we?
No, they find the little girl.
Oh yes, they find the. Are we to assume that Billy also killed this little girl?
That's what I got from it,
Or-
was he killed her on the way to the house. Because by the time our first person is missing, it's a day later. Like, we're led to believe that the girl went missing before all that stuff happened at the house.
Mhm.
So in my timeline, Billy killed her on the way. Like, you know, maybe she was walking through the park and ran into him, and he just, you know, did his Billy thing and killed her, and then made his way into the, you know.
Mhm.
Maybe he was a Wall Street guy who was just walking home and he just snapped. He got fired, and that was his first kill. You know, that to me is even scarier. Like, what if this guy wasn't a psychopath before, like, the events of, you know, hours before this movie started? That's the best thing about this movie, is you know shit about Billy.
Yeah, I was
Like,
going to say, you know more about Michael Myers in the first Halloween movie than you know about Billy in this movie. You don't like, technically.
The only thing
Who's
you
to
know
say-
about Billy is that he has one eye and two hands. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. You don't
Oh,
even know
and
if
a
his name
working
is,
voice box.
and you don't even know if his name's Billy. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and he's
It's just the
he-
name we give to him.
he's really good at doing impressions. He can do many voices at one time. He's
Yeah.
pretty good at that.
He's an out-of-work voice actor. He used to voice Donald Duck.
It's Robin
And-
Williams.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was
Oh
thinking
my
the exact
God.
same thing.
Headcanon, it's just Robin Williams sneaking
Yep.
into this house. Yeah.
I love when he plays a villain too. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, this movie's incredible. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. I love it. Ever since I watched it that Christmas Eve, I have literally watched it every Christmas season. I adore this movie. It's one of my favorites. There are times where if you asked me, I would actually rank this above Halloween as far as like my favorite horror movies. Because I just, yeah,
Yet it
This is
wasn't even
maybe
in the
my
top 10
solid
Christmas
number 2.
movies of all time.
I know. I had the worst drop. Like I had 5 top 10 movies, and you can't convince me otherwise. But I only had like, well, I guess I had 3 in the top 10, but I had 3.
Well-
I had 5 top 5 movies.
Casey, knowing how much you love that movie, I'm surprised you didn't play it higher.
What's that?
Black Christmas?
He'd already stabbed though because of Elf.
Oh.
Someone tried to play Elf at 17 and he stabbed it. I'm like, who cares about 17?
God, no shit.
It wasn't making that list, and by God, it did not. So
It didn't make the list?
it didn't make the
No.
list. So I proved my point. So
That might be worth it, honestly. So that might be worth
thanks
it.
to Sam, Elf got double stabbed on that show. So
Yeah.
Oh, you got rid of it too, huh?
I vetoed it the second time
Wow.
against my better judgment because Jesse had just given me the gift of getting to play my movie at number 1.
Wow.
And then I turned around and I vetoed him.
you made the right choice that night, Sam. Yeah, this movie's incredible. I'm right there, right around 4.5, 5 stars. This movie's incredible. But as we're going to talk about with the other two, I don't think there's a bad Black Christmas movie.
Oh, okay. Well, that's wrong. But
Let's talk about Sam's
I'm
least
just messing.
favorite, Bad Black Christmas.
Black Xmas.
I mean, what's there to say about this
What-
movie? Let's start with this.
Mhm.
What's your history with it? Because I watched this too before I watched the original. I watched this back when it came out in a friend's basement, and I didn't like it then. And I revisited it about 4 years ago after I watched the original and was like, oh, maybe I should give the remake another shot. And I hated it then. I didn't even finish it then, actually. And then I watched it again about a year later, actually finished it, did not care for it, and I sat my ass through the entire thing again for this episode, and that is the last time I will ever watch Black Christmas '06. I do not like this movie. I think it's close to unwatchable for me. I just yikes, I do not like this one. And I'm fascinated to see like A, where you guys saw this first, and B, what makes you enjoy it more than me, because I think both of you, judging from your letterbox, enjoyed this much more than I did, which isn't saying much, but yeah.
I first watched it when it came out on DVD back in 2007 or
Yeah,
something.
that's probably about when I did too.
And I really liked it a lot. And back then, my opinion was that I liked it more than the original. Um, and then I don't know, I don't know what happened. I watched it. I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and I thought it was good. And then I rewatched it for this, and I was like, I think I'm misremembering the movie because I don't remember hating this movie this much. But I I realized, okay, so what I was not liking about the movie was that they were explaining like where Billy came from, and I think he works much better when you don't know why he's a psychopath and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But
That's my biggest issue with it too.
But I I really enjoyed how disgusting this movie was. I I think this I think a movie can be disgusting and like really reviling and like it can't work. Obviously, you know, like we have movies that are like, oh, it's just too much for me. But I think this one leans in so hard into it that it really works for me. Like there's a scene where a mother fucks her own son to get pregnant. Like that's insane. There's another sequence where
her yellow skinned son.
Yeah, there's another sequence where like a guy takes cookie cutters and cuts skin off of a body and eats them as cookies. And I thought that was really gross. And
the best part is he at least dips those in milk too.
Yeah, and I thought that was really gross. But then I was like, I kind of admired that play a little bit. I admired going for it. And so
the only thing that felt anything during this whole movie was my gag reflex.
Yeah, it's a very disgusting movie.
And I hate movies like that. I like you can be gross and you can be gross with a purpose. This movie has no purpose in it. Like it just revels in disgustiness just because it can, and that's what drives me nuts about it.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I guess I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed like the shot of a certain character getting killed in the car and like the entire windshield just gets painted in blood. I really dug that stuff. I mean, I don't think
that stuff was okay. Yeah.
I don't think this is a good movie, but I think if like I really like in the future want like a sleazy movie to watch, I'm gonna put this on because I think it does the I think it's just sort of like it leans into like the grossness factor and like the fact that it doesn't care and just kind of gets progressively worse. Like I really appreciate that, and I this for me is maybe like the worst of the series. Like let me rephrase, the worst of the of all three, but I still think it's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is one I watched like very early, like into my teens. Like one of the first horror movies I watched in my teens. This and like the remake of When a Stranger Calls.
Yeah,
House
I
of
remember
Wax.
that one.
Like that's, I mean, all around that same era of horror. Yeah, but when I watched it back then, I was like, yeah, I'm not vibing with this. And then I watched it a few years after that, and I'm like, I'm still not totally into this. But I don't know. This time, I was just kind of in the mood to watch pretty much what this movie was putting out because I remembered the cookie cutter scene the most. That's the one that stuck out to me, and I'm like, all right, I'm knowing what to expect this time. Maybe I'll go in and like it a lot more. And I mean, I have fun with this movie. It's not a 5-star classic.
No,
like I give it a 3 out of 5. Which is a positive rating for me, but I don't know. I think a lot of it goes into this movie and the next remake of they're not just making Bob Clark's Black Christmas.
Exactly. They're not just go ahead.
They're taking that story, putting its own spin on it, and in this case is okay. What did Bob Clark do in that? Well, he didn't tell you anything about Billy. Well, on this one, we're going to go back and tell you literally everything there is to know about Billy. You might not like it or like, oh, that's not my Billy. Well, then go back and watch 1974 if you want that version of the character, because that's what you're going to get. So I really like that. It's so over the top that it works so much better for me than like the Rob Zombie Halloween remake, which like still tries to take Michael Myers and like humanize him and make him make us as an audience understand what makes him tick. And this, it's like, no, this guy has a weird skin condition and he's yellow and his stepdad's abusive and his mom rapes him and he can't ever see his sister / daughter and has to be locked up in the attic of the house while also building like tunnels throughout the walls of the house to get around, and then is locked in an insane asylum. And I'm like, this is just too bonkers not to at least find some level of enjoyment for myself. How different it is. Also, we talked about with Rare Exports how short it was. This is probably shorter than that movie too, because
it's really short.
The credits itself,
but somehow still feels too long.
I had to stop because they just.
I did the same thing. In fact, my Letterboxd review is this movie has 9 minutes of end credits.
Yeah, I saw that.
9 minutes.
So I know, because I watched it on Tubi and I turned it off, and it still is on my Tubi. Continue watching, and I'm like, yo, I finished this. Like, I know it says I have 9 minutes left, but I don't.
This movie is like 80 minutes long. It's lean. It's a lean, mean horror movie. The girls in this, even though this cast is insane for this movie, none of them get to do anything.
No.
But it is, looking back at it, this is an insane cast. Like,
Michelle
Trachtenberg, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Lacey Chabert, Katie Cassidy. Who else is in this? That guy from that one sitcom, Oliver Hudson, which I think is the weakest part of the movie, is his character and that subplot, because it's so dumb. It just doesn't get paid off. It's just there. I'm like, why is this? I get you're paying homage, I guess, to a sleazy boyfriend from the original, but it's like, what does this have to do with the story? That one at least was integral to the story, their relationship. This guy's just literally there.
It's funny that you say that, because there are two scenes for me in which this movie really comes alive. One of them is the morgue scene at the end, which makes no sense in the fucking context of the movie, but whatever. The scene itself is really fun. The Mortician guy is literally the only character that gets a laugh from me in this entire movie, that gets me to care about anything he's doing. And I love that he is dispatched so brutally and disgustingly. But before
you go on, I gotta ask this question.
Yeah.
Why does every mortician in every horror movie eat over the body?
Because it's gross and it's awesome, and I love that part. I love that trope. Like, if I wrote a morgue scene, like I would have the person like dripping ketchup into the like open body cavity, and just like, if you're gonna do it, just go all out with it.
I forget which movie it is, but there's one movie where like the guy sets a sandwich on a body while he's working on it.
I love that.
That is also one of my favorite movie tropes too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I love the morgue scene. I think it's incredible. And the other scene, the only other time I felt tension in this entire movie, is the scene, and it's just because it's framed so well, is the scene where there's the sex tape on the laptop, and the girls are like, keep trying to come in, and they're coming out, and you're like, oh God, are they going to see it? Or are they not going to? And that's like the whole time that I was riveted during that scene, and that's not even the scary. Like, that's the problem that I have with this movie, is like, in the editing, the quick cuts, and all the like, the mid 2000s of it all undercuts any tension in favor of just. I mean, I love gore. I think.
Do you?
I think some of the yes, I do. In certain movies, I really do. I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and that's pretty gruesome. I love the Friday.
I think this is more remake. Gruesome than.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those, and I liked Society. The third act was the best part of Society. I didn't like the first two acts. That's my big thing with that. If it would have just all been the shunting or whatever, 5 out of 5, perfect movie.
There's some great. There's a great eyeball gag in this movie too.
see, I don't like the eye stuff in this. I just don't. I think it's gross. I think it's gross without need. Like, it doesn't even make sense. I don't care. Like, I hate the fucking eyeball ornaments. There's that cool shot of Michelle Trachtenberg like eyeless laying on the presents, and I'm like, okay, that's a really cool shot. There are cool shots. There's cool lighting. The set designer went way harder than they needed to on this movie.
Mhm.
I love the set design.
Yeah.
This is
like,
the most Christmas movie to ever Christmas.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm like, you knocked it out of the park 10 out of 10 on a movie that's like at best a 3 out of 10.
Mhm. Also, we talked about the influence of Black Christmas, the OG. Pretty sure Scream 4 took a lot from this movie because the ending of Scream 4 is literally this ending, even with our new hero and surviving.
You know what's really
OG
fucking funny about that though? When you read about it, the hospital stuff in this one was a Weinstein like, you have to do this. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened with Scream 4 too. Was they had to, well, I think actually part of that was the script got leaked and so they had to like add to it or something. But I think literally both of those movies end in hospitals with defibrillators and all that kind of stuff because of the Weinstein Company and producers being like, no, you have to change this ending.
Good thing those guys are fucking gone now. Jeez.
Right?
Good thing Jim Cummings made a movie about people like him.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be Harvey, and no one's talking about it.
That's a great line. Also, this movie ends with someone getting thrown on top of a Christmas star, like on top of a Christmas tree. Like, I don't know what else you want from a Christmas.
Yeah, this movie's insane.
I'll give the final shot props. Like, it was a great final shot. Man, there are just glimmers that I like in this movie. And the rest of it is just doused in this, like, muck that I just don't like. I don't like the split story. I don't like finding anything out about the lead. Props to them for doing something different, like you guys said. I mean, I like when remakes try and do something different. I just didn't like the something different this one did. You know?
That's why I'm glad we did these 3 movies, because they are 3 very different movies. Like, it's not like we're doing just the same movie over 3 different decades. These are 3 very, very different movies.
Yeah. I'm with you, Sam. I generally don't like when movies explain like a character's history. but when the mom is climbing on the sun, I was kind of like, okay, like I'm here for this now.
No, man. I'm not. I just can't. Like, it turns my stomach thinking about
dude, me
anything
too,
with
man.
it.
But like the way she's like touching his chest, and I was like, oh my god. Like, it's one thing to like imply like that she's gonna bang her own son. It's just like the way she walks up and it's kind of like, yeah, I guess he'll do. And then she's just like touching him, like it's like, oh my god, this is disgusting. But I was into it, so I'm here for
also,
it.
like, the
different strokes, man.
I love horror movies that have people inside the walls. Like, I don't think we get enough of it. I mean, People Under the Stairs, we get some of it, and we get some of it in The Boy. And we get it here. I'm like, I want to see some more of that and some more horror movies. Like, People on the Walls is terrifying.
Yeah.
Also,
I
that's
agree.
a great title for a horror movie. If someone
The People in the Walls.
The People in the Walls.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here for that too.
Are we ready to move on to Black Christmas?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So this was a first time watch for both of you guys, right?
Yep.
Okay. Because I saw this back when it came out in theaters. Like, I saw it opening weekend because I thought the trailer looked really dope. And then they released the rating, and I saw that it was PG-13. And I like a fair share of PG-13 slashers, so I was like, okay, that's not a big deal. I can deal with this. And I remember walking out of the theater feeling very conflicted. Like, on this rewatch, I ended up liking this movie a lot more than when I first came out of the theater. But there's a lot of cool stuff that this movie does, and there's a lot of stuff that feels like they could have gone over the script 1 or 2 more times. I don't know if you guys remember like when
This
this
was
movie.
I was gonna say this was a very quick turnaround from
It
when
was like March when they announced it. They were
Mhm.
casting in April. And I assumed, oh, well, that probably means we won't get it until Christmas, like 2020, right? And then they announced the release date for like early December, because it was like the first weekend in December, even of
Mhm.
of 2019. And I was like, oh my god, they wrote, cast, shot, edited, put it all out like in the course of what, like 8 months, which can be done, but it felt rushed to me. And it still in a way does. Like there are still moments where I'm like, I feel like if this would have been workshopped a little bit more, this would have flowed a little bit easier, because it definitely like plants seeds for where it goes. I just don't think it necessarily comes back and waters those seeds enough to where, like, I feel like, having read your guys' thoughts on Letterboxd, you guys agree that the third act kind of falls apart in this movie.
It's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when the girls like bust in the door at the end, like they're the fucking Avengers. I'm like, what happened to the first 2/3 of this movie? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. The third act, again, it's hard to even call this one a Black Christmas movie,
Yeah.
because really all of the elements of even the first two are just not present. The only thing connecting all
There are a
of them
few
together is
nods,
that
but
it's a sorority during
yeah.
Christmas, and it doesn't even end in the sorority. Like a lot of the action doesn't take place in the sorority house.
Yeah. Which the best sequence in this movie is the one that does take place in the sorority house. I mean, with this one, it's weird because the last two were one, or in the 06 one, two different killers coming after just like one particular group of sorority girls.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, it's
Insane.
very much looking at like campus culture as like, not campus culture, but like Greek culture as a whole, and like the misogyny that plays into that, which is a really interesting idea for a horror movie.
They just should have leaned into that instead of a bunch of brainwashed 19-year-olds are going after these girls because Carrie Always found a secret magic ooze inside of us.
Yeah.
That's the a statue head. Like that's
And-
where I think the third act starts to definitely lose me, is the weird supernatural elements of, oh no, they're just brainwashed. It's like, no, like fuck. This is the same problem I have with Last Night in Soho. The message gets a little muddled when you throw some extra shit inside of it, especially at the end of this movie where you get the boyfriend character, or like the love interest, that like AV guy, and he gets brainwashed and he's standing right there, and I'm like, okay, we're just doing like, what if all these other guys in this house were just normal dudes
letting
like
them
him
off
too?
the hook.
Yeah.
And I that's the weirdest part about this movie, like, is that it like wants so bad to be this like this feminist like girl empowerment thing, and there are times where it actually feels like it's worse than the other two as far as misogyny goes. Like there are moments where a girl who has previously showed us that she would do something smart in the situation. The first kill is like the best example of this, where you've got the girl who gets the keys in her hand right away. You think she knows how to defend herself. And then she literally stops in the middle of this yard, drops her keys, and goes, no, 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 no. Please, 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 please don't. And lets the guy stab her. Like, not even like sneaking up or anything, but just like she sees him coming, she stops, and then and I'm like, there are things like that where I'm just like, why not have your characters like actually be smarter? And they never address that. They never address if that's like part of the ooze's influence, which might at least explain why like all of a sudden some of these people, like, because even Imogen Poots does it in certain scenes where all of a sudden she just can't defend herself, like she's helpless. And I'm like, where's the consistency there? Like, she's shown that she's a tough as
Mhm.
balls character, and now all of a sudden she can't. Like, there's just moments like that, and then the twist at the end where it's supernatural, taking away a lot of the, like, taking the responsibility off of the guys for doing the awful things they do. It feels like if the script would have been workshopped a little bit more, those problems could have been fixed and tweaked. I also have a theory about why the black ooze and all of that was. I don't think that was in the initial script. I do think that was rewritten into it. Because I feel like I remember reading that they were going for an R rating at first. And then they decided that they wanted to try and make it so that younger girls could go to this, because it's a movie for young women, right? And they wanted to make sure that everybody between those ages of, like, 13 and 17 were able to get to this, which I respect. I think that's awesome. I think we need more horror like that like younger kids can go to see in the theaters, because, like, not everybody can go see R-rated movies. Not everybody has, cool parents that'll let them.
I was going to say, just sneak into the theater like any other normal human being.
Well, that used to be easier when we were around, because we didn't have to buy specific seats. But no,
well, no one went and watched this movie anyway. You could have just snuck into Black Christmas.
That's fair. Carrie Elwes's big monologue at the end, half of it is ADR, because you don't see his face as any of this is being said. There are only very brief shots of him actually saying something, and it's usually something pretty generic, not actually related to the Hawthorne bust. There's one shot of the empty Hawthorne bust case that feels just inserted in to plant that seed. And even when they're talking about it in the opening scene, it's mostly ADR. It's like a wide shot, and you hear the characters talking about the Hawthorne bust. You don't actually see them talking. So what I think is, when they decided to switch to a PG-13 rating, they had to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And they changed the blood to black ooze, and they write in the supernatural stuff.
Well, I'm just looking up the IMDb trivia here. The film it took 5 months with pre-production, production, and post-production.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's an insane turnaround.
It says some of the movie was shot in one take and was either ad-libbed or shot without a script.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Which kind of shocks me, that with Blumhouse having its connection to this movie and what they did with Halloween the year previous, that they wouldn't have taken
more time.
Like, oh, cool, we got the rights to make another Black Christmas. Let's take a year to figure out what we're going to do with it and the route we want to go with it. Because, I think there is just so many muddled things. It's presenting a lot of great things. I don't think this is a bad movie, but it's very muddled in execution.
I think it's very enjoyable.
I think one of the most interesting aspects of it is the one sorority girl who ends up betraying the rest of the sorority sisters, and then just ends up getting killed later on. I'm like, that's really interesting. I wish we would have focused on that a little bit more, because I think that's more interesting than...
She's like the Alison Brie character in Promising Young Woman, showing the ways that women can also be a part of the bigger problem. Yeah,
and I think this movie has a lot to compare with Promising Young Woman. Promising Young Woman is a much better and tighter movie in what it's going for with what it's trying to say, but there's no reason that this movie couldn't have been like that. And I think the PG-13 rating hurts the overall final product of this movie.
I agree.
I think a lot of the scares feel like they're just cut before anything happens, and you take all the tension out of it. Sam, I think it was in your letterbox, you talked about the Exorcist 3 scene, which for me, I knew that's what they were going for, but it doesn't work like the Exorcist 3 works for me.
I disagree with that.
I don't think for me, there's not enough setup for that to pay off in that scene.
I disagree.
That's my favorite sequence in this whole movie.
It works for me.
Yeah, I love it. I also, the other one that I really dig is the Christmas, like her plugging in the Christmas lights. Like, you know where that scene is going, but the way it's shot and the way it's lit, I love that. What I don't love is the follow-up where one of the sisters finds her body and it clearly like cuts early before you see what happened. And then she's acting horrified. I'm like, that doesn't work quite as well. But some of these, like that. So the Exorcist 3 reference, the attic and the Christmas lights, and then the entire sequence where the hooded fraternity brothers are invading the house with the bow and arrow and all that. All of that stuff works so well. Like, there is real tension in those sequences, and I think the second act of this movie is amazing. There's not a thing I would change about the second act. It's the tightest part of this movie. It's the best horror movie. It's the best with its social commentary. Like, they have some nuance in the second act that's then kind of obliterated in the third. But there's like some nuance in the topics they're discussing. I couldn't praise the second act of this movie more, honestly. Like, this, if the second act had been like kind of all the way through, I think I would have been raving about this movie like I raved about this year's Slumber Party Massacre. Like, because this movie has the workings to be something like that. I just don't think it executes it as well as that movie does.
The part of the guys entering the sorority house with the bow and arrow, I'm like, that's your climax. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah, it should have been the third act.
And then when we go into this weird supernatural stuff, it just doesn't work, because even in the movie itself, the final product, you have the setup of why these guys might go to extreme lengths this time to go after the girls, of that like dance number that they perform at the Christmas party,
which is a great scene.
Which is a great scene, and that to me, if these guys are, I mean, especially one of them is just a rapist,
right.
Like, we have enough motivation with him being a shitty human being to her humiliating him in front of all of his friends and everyone else at the school, to have him take the next step of, well, then I'm going to take whatever situation I'm in into my own hands. And you can still like introduce Carrie Elway somehow. Maybe he's his like dad that got him into school in the first place.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you could go about this besides introducing a weird black magic cult that Carrie Elway's is technically by the end the only guy who's actually a bad dude because he's not under the spell. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too much.
I mean, I still think that, I don't know. Yeah. Because it's unclear on whether, like, I don't know. Yeah. I
How
agree.
long were these guys under this?
Well, how does it work?
spell?
Are they just walking around with like blacked out eyes going to classes too? Like, what does it activate it? Not like, there's just so frighteningly little we know about this. And on one hand, it's like, yeah, explaining everything isn't necessary. The original Black Christmas is proof of that. But when it opens up questions to the point where the ending is unsatisfactory because of it, that's when it's like, I don't know, like that there needed to be more definition to the supernatural element for it to be totally effective in what it was trying to do.
Yeah. I think we're all on the same page of this movie. I mean, there's a great movie hidden inside it somewhere. And
wait, so you guys liked it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah. I gave it 3.5 stars.
Okay. Because I couldn't tell at some points if you guys really didn't like it or not. Because I thought it was great. So
yeah,
I really liked it.
I know. Like, that's the thing. I don't understand the intense hatred towards it.
Well, I do.
I
think it's just because it's called Black Christmas.
Well, yeah. That's something that's working against it because, like, it doesn't have a lot of the hallmarks of it. It has some fun nods to it and stuff, but no, I really do. I like this movie, and I liked it walking out of the theater too, but it's one of those movies where it's conflicting for me because there's so much of it that I like.
Yeah.
Like
That third act sucks though.
yeah,
the
it's
third
just
act
the
is
third
bad.
act kind of robs
the first
it.
2 acts are really great. Imogen Poots is really like
Yeah, she's
really
great.
great.
Incredible
She's
in
great
it.
in everything.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say what Blake said. She's great in everything. I mean,
Yeah, her in Green Room is just
yeah.
one of my favorite horror performances ever. I love it.
Yeah, but knowing the fact that it took them 5 months from, hey,
Yeah.
we're actually doing this movie, till, hey, you need to have this movie in the theater by then. That's impressive to say the least. And to have this as the final product, even faults and all, I'm like, this is still not a bad movie.
It's such a fun one.
It's
That's
still the
thing.
second best Black Christmas movie.
Yeah. It's
Behind
a
the
fun
06 one,
horror
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, no, I really like this one, and I think I even ended my Letterboxd review with like, this is probably one going forward that I'll be putting on a yearly December rotation with the original, because I just, especially on this rewatch, a lot of it just really worked for me. I think third act problems aside, even this is one of the better PG-13 slashers that I've seen. But that's also coming from someone who kind of likes how bad the Prom Night remake is. So take from that what you will.
Better than the original.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Okay. Woof. I'm
the
glad
original
I'm in
Prom
good
Night
company
isn't
here.
a good movie, though. I mean,
No, it's not.
Yeah, therefore it's better
really,
than the original.
really
Yeah.
But like, I want to see Universal and Blumhouse give Sophia Takal another horror
Yes. Yeah, because
Give
I
her
think
an
she did
give
one
her
of
an
the
OG
Welcome to the
property.
Blumhouse, or like one of the Hulu Into the Darks or whatever. I think they gave her one after this, but I'm like, come on, that's not like, give her something that could be played in theaters, that could make some money, that could maybe launch her into the mainstream, because she's got chops. She's an incredible director.
Right before this, so that's how she got this movie.
Okay, gotcha.
She was also in the first VHS in the second honeymoon segment.
Oh, okay. I still have to get on those.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I like the Black Christmas 19 a lot. I think it's it's just a fun movie.
Yeah,
It's a fun movie. It's got a great cast. And as much as the supernatural third act stuff doesn't work, I do love the smarmy Carrie Elwes, like, just, especially that stupid line where he's just like, "No, we're not insane. We're just men." It's like, all right. We're really doing that. I dig it. All right.
That third act especially feels like a lot of it is ad-libbed, and they're kind of just
yeah.
well, Carrie Elways, you know what the hell you're doing. Like, just here's
be
where
a
you need to
misogynist
here's
for
where
3
you need to
minutes.
get in this scene. Find yourself from point A to point B. Whatever's in between those two, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Which
And
is okay. I
that's
love
definitely
Carrie
what it
Elways.
feels like. Yeah. It's fun. It's a fun performance. So
Yeah, in my opinion, all three are worth a watch. I mean, the original is classic for a reason. 06 is like, that's the remake you would make in 2006, and 2019 is like, I don't know. It's very different from the other two. Kind of carves its own story. It's not great. It doesn't do it perfectly, but it's watchable, and it's a fun movie with the great first two acts. And yeah, for people who were out there like giving it like 1 star or half a star, I'm like, y'all are crazy.
yeah. Here's the thing. We need more horror directed by women, because like, we've got some great like up and coming female directors in the scene right now that I'm like, give them like bigger projects. You got like Axel Carolyn, who's doing tremendous work on Creepshow, and I think she actually just did Welcome to the Blumhouse movie too. You've got Sophia Takal, like, I mean, you got Rebecca McKendry. Like, these are female directors that have unique voices, that have something to say. Like, give them more stuff to do. Like, give them bigger
Rebecca
budgets.
McKendry just wrote the Bring It On slasher movie, so
I know. I'm so excited for that. I can't wait. I
I
can't
can't
wait.
remember. Is it going to be a TV movie or is it
It's a
actual?
sci-fi movie. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
It's gonna be
I'm
next
in.
year's
I'm
Slumber
in.
Party
I was gonna say,
Massacre.
that is not going to theaters. I can tell you that.
I'm in.
We'll do
Sci-fi's.
another theater room night, and
I was gonna say,
we'll watch it the
Sci-fi's
opening
been
night.
crushing their like feature films as of late. Like
Yeah.
besides like the Sharknado 17, but yeah, Slumber Party Massacre. I think Leprechaun Returns was also
Yes.
Yeah, it was really
sci-fi.
good. That was really
And
That was a
good.
good one.
It's the best Leprechaun movie, and like I think it's
Wow.
not as fun as Leprechaun in Space or in the Hood, but it's the best overall movie.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I'm still gonna say Back to the Hood is my
Hey,
favorite.
that's how our homie got money to make Psycho Goreman, so we have to take it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
God, I'm so glad you guys liked the 19 Black Christmas. I'm so
I
glad that
was-
this conversation went that way.
I was shocked. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Mhm.
I dig it, and I really dug it on this rewatch. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to making that one an annual revisit.
Are we ready to fan slash?
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
You want to hear mine?
Well, we should say what it is.
Oh yeah. Wait, didn't we
I don't
already
know. I don't
announce
remember.
it?
I don't
I can't remember. We're putting a horror icon into a Christmas movie that already exists, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I know mine.
Okay.
I want to put the tall man in the Muppet Christmas Carol as Ebenezer Scrooge. That's it. That's mine.
Hmm.
Can you imagine Angus Scrim with his like one squinty eye?
Okay.
Boy, bring me the turkey in the window at the corner shop. Yeah, that's mine.
I was very confused which tall man you were talking about for a second.
Oh, from Phantasm, yeah.
I was going to say, wasn't there a Jessica?
I thought you meant
Biel
like
or,
literally
like,
the
Tall
movie
Man?
The Tall Man. And I
Oh
was
God, no.
Like,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Is that the movie I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Right?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Okay.
talking the tall man from Phantasm.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Angus Scrim, you know? Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's a deep cut having a Jessica Biel horror movie from 2011.
What
Sam-
can I say? I'm just a fan of early 2010s Jessica Biel horror. So, no, yeah, it can be like Phantasm 7, the Muppet Christmas Carol.
I would watch that.
I would too.
Mm-hmm.
When the ghost of Christmas Present starts to grow old and die, like Angus Scrim just helps him along by like bringing out one of his orbs and you know. Make it really bloody.
The ball is the ball is on the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, is that how they serve like punch at the Cratchit table?
Fozziwigs. Yeah. Oh yeah. I
They
love
like
it.
stick it in the punch bowl and just start shooting out into everybody's cup.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. I was wondering what your guys' like weird reaction was when I said the tall man, so I'm glad we cleared that.
Yeah, I was like,
Sorry.
well, my mind went to the empty man first, and I was like,
Oh,
oh, that's
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I
want
guess.
James Dale Badge to be Scrooge one time.
Mine went to Slender Man and then immediately, he said
Yeah.
Tall Man, and then he went to, I was like, the Jessica Biel movie?
yeah. I was like,
I want the
okay.
bye-bye man to be with the money.
The Bye Bye Man. The movie's horrible.
How the bye-bye man stole Christmas.
Christmas went bye. I'm gonna fan slash Freddy Krueger as Clark Griswold. Just because I want to hear him do the Clark Griswold rant at the end of a Christmas vacation.
Yeah.
Calling someone a worm-headed sack of monkey shit. Hallelujah, holy shit, where's the Tylenol? I just want to hear Robert Englund yell those lines.
And Jason has to be Cousin Eddie. Just
that?
because I want to hear. Jason has to be Cousin Eddie because it's a camper. He's a camper. And B, I want to hear Jason yell about his shitter being full.
Mm-hmm. with his mask on, but he dresses.
Yeah, with his mask.
He dresses like Cousin Eddie, though. He just has the
Yeah,
hockey
but
mask.
just with the hockey mask on.
He's got the sideburns too and the slick back hair somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to see Freddy like stumble over lines while he's looking at lingerie for his wife.
Yes.
Okay, so mine's really bad because I just thought of it right now. But I would take the Ginger Dead Man and put him as like one of the lead killer cookies in the Krampus.
Yes.
And he would lead the killer cookies throughout the house trying to kill people. So that's mine.
Would it then turn into a Krampus versus Ginger Dead Man movie?
Well, it'd have to. I mean,
Yeah.
if Ginger Dead Man fights Evil Bong 4 or 5 times,
Mhm.
like,
Right.
he's got to fight Krampus at least twice.
I was going to
Yeah.
say, was Krampus going to take a hit from Evil Bong to power up more? Or?
That is what happens like in the mid credit sequence at the end.
Krampus takes a big old rip from Evil Bong.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
uh-huh.
Yep.
Oh my god, I love it.
The Puppet Master toys can be the toys he hands out to kids.
Oh my god, this shit writes itself.
It's
I don't know. Every time we do these, I wonder why we haven't been given money yet. Like, for real. Just give us funding for this. I don't know what's so hard about that.
Well, if we made a full moon movie, we don't need any money to make one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I bet if we pitch these to Charlie Band, he'd be like, yeah, do it.
Except don't use the real names.
Actually, we could use Krampus. Like,
Oh,
it just
for real?
won't be Mike Doherty's Krampus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would just have to. Yeah.
Krampus versus.
There are so
Ginger
many
Dead
knockoff Krampus movies, so yeah.
Man.
That's true. That is true. That's awesome. Oh
Man.
Charlie Band, if you're listening, you know who to call.
Yeah.
It's not the Ghostbusters. All right, that's it, boys.
That's it, right?
That is it.
That's the show. Well, guys, thanks for listening. As always, wherever you're listening, you can subscribe, leave us a review, all that good stuff. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd HQ, Backlot 605, all that kind of good stuff. We love doing these shows. This is always like one of the highlights of my month, getting to talk to you guys about horror movies. So I love it.
Next month, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Best of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
It would be a best of the year show.
I was hoping we'd do a whole episode on New Year's Evil, but I guess best of the year is fine.
I've never seen New Year's Evil, so maybe I'll watch it and we'll talk about it in fresh meat.
I have never seen it either.
Oh, New Year's Evil rules! It has such a great like theme song. It's like this '80s glam rock band singing New Year's Evil. It's awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
in.
that sounds like my shit. All right, guys. Well, next month we'll be talking our top 10 horror releases of 2021. Oh my god.
Yep.
That's crazy that this year is over. It's been a banner year for horror. I'm stoked to talk. I think we're all going to have pretty different top 10 lists. So I think there will be a little bit of crossover, but
I think besides one.
yeah, there's going to be some crossover. Although Blake only gave it like 3.5 stars, so now I'm not sure.
I guess you have to wait a month, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I will. That's actually going to be the thing that's my anticipation. It's not Morbius. It's not like any of the January releases. It's will Blake put Psycho Gorman on his end of the year top 10 list?
Oh, come on. Of course I am, Sam.
Yeah.
Of course I am.
Of course. All right. I don't know how to sign off on these things.
Like, are you trying to end this?
Yeah, I am. I'm just bad at it.
I'll hop in. We want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. This is going to drop on not New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve. So wishing everybody a very Merry Christmas. So thank you all for joining us during this holiday weekend, and we will see you in the new year on to 2022 and Psycho Gorman 2 coming out that year. I hope.
Hunky
Well,
boys.
Hunky boys for life.
Hunky boys.
All right, later, hunky boys.
Later,
They're
guys.
coming to get you, Barbara.